a conversation with Information Minister Designate, now Deputy Minister for Information, Fatimatu Abubakar Esquire, and that conversation was curated by Beatrice Edu of our Current Affairs Desk. Listen.
How do you react to the response of people to the reappointment of the Finance Minister? And I'm asking you this question because ahead of the reappointment, people thought that Ken Ofori-Atta has not really helped with the economy, and yet the President thought he deserved another shot, and so he's giving him a higher responsibility. How do you respond to the quote-unquote negative reaction to his reappointment?
Okay, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, before politics, was a very renowned investment banker in Ghana. His work and his legacy within the financial sector was known. I don't think there was a single time that Ghanaians questioned his capacity, even outside politics, of his ability to run a financial institution, not to think of leading the fiscal policy of any government. In 2017, Ken Ofori-Atta was the finance minister. In 2018, he was a finance minister. In 2019, he was a finance minister. When Ghana was recording an average GDP growth rate of 7%, he was the finance minister. When Ghana was recording single-digit inflation, he was the finance minister. His capacity was never questioned. And as a government, we have mentioned time and again that the challenges that we faced are, we mentioned about 7 things, including what the finance ministry said. 1, of course, we have had structural problems with our economy over the period, which we are seeking to resolve with things like digitalization, like the Ghana card, like making sure we even have data on properties and the deficits we have, we are able to plan and account for the people. We mentioned the fact that the BDCs were dependent on the Bank of Ghana for forex so that they can import crude oil. A barrel of crude was about $74 per barrel. And when COVID, Russia-Ukraine war, it jumped all the way to about $114 per barrel. If the BOG was supposed to provide $200 million for the BDCs, all of a sudden, overnight, they need double of that amount. That was a stretch. There was pressure on forex. The pressure would also mean that the BDCs and other key importers will be forced to look elsewhere beyond the central banks to look for the dollar so that they will be able to meet the demands. You know, we rely on crude for electricity generation because largely when it comes to our power sector or our power value chain, over 60% is dependent on thermal, which uses crude and gas. We talk about transport system and the economy. It runs on crude oil. And Ghana is a net importer of crude, not a net exporter of crude. So when some of these challenges came, we outlined what led to the challenges with the stability of our currency, what led to the challenges in the economy in terms of inflation and all that. Then the same finance minister led the government to tell Ghanaians that we are going to the IMF with a PCPEG program. These are the taxes we are bringing. This is what we are seeking to raise with the e-levy. We want to raise money so that we can implement USTAT, so that we can pay road contractors and complete road projects.
Just so we don't spend too much.
So I am saying that in good times, we didn't have problems with his capacity. In challenging times, we complain. The president has listened to the complaints. His capacity to guide, to advise in the financial sector is not lost just because he's no longer finance minister.
So you think that
if his skills are required elsewhere and the president believes he can help us with some negotiations or can advise, I don't think there should be a big problem about that.
You think his reappointment is justified because he's qualified for it?
Of course.
But again, in this same period, over 80 MPs of the same government did not think that he was using the supposed competence and skills you talk about, which you say he used to manage the economy in good times. They didn't think that he used that to help us join the economy, during the economic crisis.
I am saying that if you listen, even with the majority, if you listen to their press conferences, the interviews that some of them gave, which I watched a few, they were not saying that he should be removed because he lacks capacity. They were saying that the difficult times that we have gone through, the public sentiments must be listened to. And if removing him from that particular portfolio, if you can play back some of those interviews, will set the hearts of people at rest, will give us a fresh start, will bring another person who will give a semblance of a renewed energy and confidence. We should do that. If you talk about his reappointment, it's as if he's been brought back to occupy the position as finance minister.
Well, in a different capacity.
But no, that is not it. It is not a reflection of the reality on the ground. There's been times that we've had conversations about the economy, even with the economic management team, and we've mentioned that they are only an advisory group, and that when it comes to fiscal policy, the responsibility lies solely at the Ministry of Finance. There are so many presidential advisors over the years. In fact, under former President John Dramani Mahama, he appointed the three wise men, the late Honorable, the former MP for Ningo Pram, Honorable Iti Mensah, Honorable Cletus Avoka, former majority leader, and yes, an MP for Zebila, and also the Right Honorable Speaker Alban Bagbin. Advisors doesn't mean they are going to sit at the Ministry of Finance to micromanage the economy. No. We have a substantive finance minister in the person of Honorable Amin Adam. I am saying that if in the wisdom of the president and with the executive powers vested in him by Article 58 of the 1992 Constitution, if the president believes I need his services somewhere to help still at part of the recovery program that we are going through, and his advice will help the president in any way possible. Let us give the president the support to bring the best hand to support him in any way that they can.
So he's just an advisor. It is Amin Adam who takes the executive position.
Of course. That is not in doubt. There is no question.
If he is just an advisor, like Dr. Baumia said recently, the finance minister and indeed the presidency can decide to take his advice or not.
Of course.
Then his position is irrelevant. Don't you think so?
There are advisors over the years, and I have never sat in a conversation where they've said the president does not need advisors, or appointing advisors is irrelevant. Nobody, I haven't seen a political party that has made a case for it, because all wisdom does not lie in one person's head.
But doesn't the finance ministry, including Amin Adam as substantive minister, have advisors? Why?
The presidency, they have media advisors, they have a chief of staff, they have other people, and sometimes we assume that in a democracy, everything is like in a single pot, and the management of a country or a government is, I don't want to use the word simplistic, but there are so many things that happen.
Therefore, you wouldn't agree with those who think that this is a continuation of family and friends presidency?
It isn't. It isn't. Having an advisor, I think it's far-reaching. I don't see it as such. It isn't. And we have a finance minister in whom we trust, who the president has given the mandate based on his wisdom.
That's the Honorable Fatimatu Abubakar, Minister Designate for Information, now Deputy Minister, to the stiff defense of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta.